Shalom. You reached the He Prayed channel. My name is YAHAWAH. But first and foremost, I want to say, Call Holayu, Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harachach Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of 71319, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of men, women, and children. Shalom to those Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people will come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. Says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on the return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahawah Shem Yahweh Shah for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahawah Shem Yahweh Shah allowed us to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. I think what really inspired this video, besides the spirit of Yahawah Shem Yahweh Shah, instilling those instructions in my sleep as I woke up to a military helicopter seemingly circling above, my house, because you could tell the difference between military and domestic helicopters. Yet, despite me saying that, I'm not trying to say that it was because of me. A lot of people, a lot of bug outs would think everybody's chasing them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, because it's an event that happens, frequently, as I perceive that they have like a military base in the mountains somewhere, in the foothills somewhere. Or maybe they travel to Nevada from pass through the area I'm in. But long story short, what came into my mind was that, they're going to be coming after us. And not only the elect, but, Israel as a whole, just as in times before, right? And each and every time that Yahweh has allowed these nations to come against his people, it was to glorify his power, and for us as his people to glorify him as their God. And now it's going to be the same thing with the so-called white man who was Esau. But this time it's going to be the glorification of his son, Yahweh Shah, who is going to be physically with us. That's why they told him to name him Emmanuel, which means God with us. So despite Esau thinking that he's going to destroy our people, YAHAWAH Shem Shah is going to save a remnant. And that gives us hope. All right. So it says, divine defeat of 3 tyrants. Now you have to excuse the dates. I did a little brief research, and they give 2 sets of dates for when Jake was in Egypt. So I'm just gonna go with this one. 1446 BCE, late Bronze Age. Which our people were enslaved by Martazarian, Mizraim, which is in the Lashawan Tahar, the pure language, and the Assyrian, and then now known as modern day Egypt or Egypt. It says Pharaoh of the Exodus, time period 1446 BCE, late Bronze Age, background. Ruler of Egypt who enslaved Israel and refused divine summons to release them. But this time we're not, asking these Edomites to let us go. This time we're singing a different tune. We're telling them that they're going to be destroyed and that our God, YAHAWAH Shem Shai, is going to send his armies to save his elect of the nation of Israel, to preserve a remnant that's going to subjugate the nations. Title Pharaoh represents the throne, not a personal name. But, I tried to do a little brief research and try to go into the depths of my memory and think of the name of the Pharaoh that Moses or Masha had interacted with. And some say Ramesses II, some say Amenhotep II, and Tut Mo something. So maybe on the next video, I'm not going to wing it or give you any false information. So if the spirit is on me, I'm going to do a little bit more research and pray that YAHAWAH Shem Shai guides me to the correct direction, as he has, frequently done. And if it be his will, I'll bring it out at a later time. But continuing, it says divine defeat. It says pursued the fleeing Israelites to the shores of the Red Sea, which they went through the Suez Bay, which I usually say the Suez Canal or whatever, but it's actually a point in the Suez Bay, you know, because people in these times they don't know geography. So, and my intent was to, give them a location in which they, might uh know already, but it's the Suez Bay. It's continuing. It says waters miraculously parted for Israel and collapsed on the Egyptian host, which that host means armies, drowning Pharaoh and his army. And they're still there to this day, man. Let me see if I can see if it was Ramesses, according to the 1446, it wouldn't line up for him to be the pharaoh at that time. Um, Lost my train of thought. Hold on. Okay, I got it back. Let me see what this says. It says recent archaeological discoveries have led to speculation about a Egyptian army's presence in the Red Sea. A team of underwater archaeologists found remains of a large Egyptian army from the 14th century BCE. So, if that's the case, then it will line up with this time period that AI gives. So let's see who. So when you go to in 1446 BCE, the pharaoh of the Exodus is believed to be Thutmose the Third. He ruled for a significant portion of time, and the biblical accounts suggest that he was the pharaoh during the events surrounding the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. Thutmose the Third's reign is noted for its duration in the historical context of the biblical narrative, as he is associated with the events leading up to the Exodus. Going back, it says the Egyptian army from the 14th century before Common Era, including over 400 skeletons, weapons, and two war chariots at the bottom of the Gulf of Suez, approximately 1.5 kilometers offshore from Ras Gharib. This discovery has sparked discussions about its connection to the biblical narrative of the Exodus, suggesting that the army may have perished in a mudslide or tidal wave, corroborating the biblical account of the Red Sea crossing. However, some sources caution that claims of such discoveries may be based on fake news or satire, questioning the authenticity of the findings. Which fake news and satire, those are new things, in the earth. And it's derived from conspiracy theories. And when you go into conspiracy theories, they're no more than operations of these, governments. But yet, they'll push these titles of operations like Operation Rise in Line, you know, which you saw what they did during that. And 20 years later, if this place was still to go on, they'll call that a conspiracy theory. That's what this devil does, man. He's the devil. He's a deceiver, so got the basis of that. Keywords and etymology. Hebrew, pharaoh, from Egyptian great house, the royal court. Greek, pharaoh, transliteration of the Hebrew title. Latin, pharaoh, adopted via the Septuagint, Greek form. And then king, Senna. Let me just go ahead and do this.
Sennacherib of Assyria. Time period 701 BC, Iron Age. Background: aggressive Assyrian king who besieged Jerusalem during Hezekiah's reign to crush Judah. Boasted of obliterating Israelite cities and exiling survivors. Divine defeat: an angel of the Lord struck down 185,000 soldiers in a single night. Sennacherib retreated to Nineveh, where he was later assassinated by his own sons. Keywords and etymology. Hebrew, Inach Serav, Sin, the moon god, has replaced brothers, or Sin has established the heir.
Greek, Sennacherib, Sennacherib, reflex de Kedeheri.
Latin, Sennacherib, direct adaptation from Greek. 3. Antiochus 4 Epiphanes. Time period, 167 to 164 BC, Hellenistic era. Background: Seleucid monarch who outlawed Jewish worship, defiled the Jerusalem temple, and sought to eradicate Jewish identity. Known in 1 and 2 Maccabees for his brutal persecution and forced Hellenization. Divine defeat: struck by a mysterious, loathsome disease that caused festering ulcers and convulsions. Died in disgrace far from his capital, his body disfigured as divine retribution. Keywords and etymology. Provide precepts on how God's promise to Abraham is the reason why Israel. I-words and etymology. Greek, New Omicron Kalmicron Antiochos, from anti, against, plus okio, support, hold, possibly, steadfast against. Latin, Antiochus, adopted unchanged from Greek. Epithet Epiphanes, Piodophile Phenu, manifest, God manifest, ironically highlighting his claim to divinity crushed by God.
So those are 3 accounts where our people have suffered from the cruelty of these tyrants. No different than what we're suffering in these times with Esau, the Edomite nation. But one thing that they forget is Yahawah's promise to Abraham. Unyielding shield for Yasha'Allah. Yasha'Allah meaning he is Prince of the Power. Right? So let me go ahead and get the Bible. the blue letter, King J, online. So it says Genesis 12, where it talks, it's unbreakable covenant of blessing, right? Genesis. As Abram journeys to Egypt. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now Yahawah, because it's in all caps, proving that Yahawah was in the Old Testament, not just Yahweh Shah. It says, had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And you know, Abram was King David, if you could receive it in the spirit. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. So Esau is cursed. It says, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Right? And then it gives us 22, 16, 18. This is Genesis chapter 22, 16. And said, by myself have I sworn, saith Yahweh, for because thou hast done this thing, and he's talking to Abraham, and have not withheld thy son, thy only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. So we're going to possess the gate of our enemies. And who's our enemy in these times? Would it not be Esau and the other heathen nations that rule over us, that rule over the jewels, the people of God? Continuing, it says, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. When has Esau ever obeyed? When has Cain ever obeyed? Right? It says, explanation. God's call to Abram establishes that whoever blesses Israel be blessed, and whoever curses them will be cursed. This divine oath, cut and sealed by God himself, makes Israel's security rest on God's faithfulness rather than human might. So it don't matter how weak we may appear, we're not weak. Go ahead and let AI say this.
Divine defeat of 3 tyrants. Great.
Never wants to do what you want it to do.
Great Millstone, GMS, style.
Guess I'll have to do it. Let me see if I could get it right here.
Divine defeat of.
Yeah, it's tripping. So, keywords in etymology, the Hebrew word berit, covenant, from bara, to cut, implying a covenant cut in blood. Let me see. Co-pilot. Co-pilot search, a covenant cut in blood refers to a sacred agreement established through the shedding of blood, symbolizing deep commitment and the seriousness of the promises made. And who shed his blood for our protection? YAHAWAH, man. Definition and significance. In biblical terms, a blood covenant is a solemn, which means serious, agreement between two parties, often sealed with the sacrifice of an animal. But this time it was Yahweh's son himself. This practice was common in the ancient Near East, where cutting animals in half and walking between the pieces symbolized the seriousness of the covenant. If either party failed to uphold their end of the agreement, they would face the same fate as the sacrificed animal. And guess what? Our God is not a God that he shall lie, man. And like that Drewski skit when he was like, "You was in trouble. You was in trouble. You was in trouble." He meant to say, "You Edomites, man." You know, presumably the name that you can't say. Greek, diathaki, and you gotta excuse me. You know, I'm not fluent in any of these particular languages. It says covenant, testament, from dia through plus themia, to place. Latin fiedus, treaty, covenant, from foedus, league, pact. So this is a blood oath that Yahawah Shem Yahshua promised to the righteous elite of his people being the so-called blacks, Hispanics, or Latinos, and the indigenous of America, and all those scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Perpetual land inheritance. Genesis 15. 18 through 21. This is Genesis chapter 15, verse 18. And the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, "Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, and the Kenizzites, and the Kadamites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites." So this is a land contract given to Abraham by the Heavenly Father. It says, Explanation: the grant of territory from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, binds Canaan to Abraham's descendants forever. No earthly power can override this divine deed of real estate, no matter how much they try to say that they're the people and that they're the original people. When we see that they've distorted history to benefit them and their so-called white supremacy, man. Mind you, these are the nation, this is the nation that is going to rule in the end of the age, the end of the world. And they happen to be the devil the Bible speaks of. Now, people confuse Satan and devil with what they match in their mind concerning Hollywood, but that's not what that is. Satan meaning adversary and the devil or devil meaning deceiver. The so-called white man whose line goes back to Esau, Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. He's an adversary toward the Most High, and he is a deceiver. And you people have been deceived. Keywords in etymology: Hebrew, nahala, possession, inheritance, from nakal, to inherit. Greek, kleronomia, inheritance, from kleronomia, to receive as a heir. Latin, hereditas, inheritance, from here's heir. Kingdom of priest. So we're supposed to be a kingdom of priest, but what does this damn devil have us doing? He has us being court gestures, whether it be actors, ball players, rappers, entertainers, but in all actuality, we're supposed to be a kingdom of priests, and what do they do to influence you people? And you people, I'm talking about you Israelites, they present that fiat currency, man, and that fame and fortune. Because why? The earth was given into the hand of the wicked. So, we know Satan is a son of YAHAWAH on the left-hand side, and he operates, these Edomites. So just as Satan offered Yahweh Shah, all these different kingdoms, Satan's children has the power to offer you a piece or a taste in their kingdom. They could elevate you to great heights, but it has a dome to it. It has a limitation. And then, as you see now, and over the past decade, uh, the devil is cashing in, man. And you jakes are dying or being exposed or sent to prison. And it don't matter how many Jello puddings you've sold, man. It don't matter. When the devil's ready to cash in, he's gonna cash in. This is Exodus chapter 19, verse 5. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant contract, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. So now all people are created equal. But that's what that universalism bullshit Esau pushes, which is Satanism. It says, for all the earth is mine, and ye shall be unto me as kingdom, Slakia, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Now, are we a kingdom of priests, a holy nation in its entirety? No. But the Most High has his elect. It says, these are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of YAHAWAH, right? So it says explanation by naming Israel a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Yahweh sets them apart for divine service and protection. And that's why you see so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans all of a sudden, all throughout the country, and Israelites scattered throughout the world, starting to say the same thing. It says their corporate identity under this title guarantees its safeguarding so long as they honor the covenant, right? And now it's about having faith in Yahweh Shai. And, key words in etymology: Hebrew, Mamleket, kingdom, from Malak, king. Greek, Basilel, kingdom, from Basileus, king. Um, Latin, regnum, kingdom, from Rex, king, right? 4, eternal Davidic hope, and it takes us to 2nd Maccabees. So we'll go to KJV 16:11. Scroll down, all the way down. 2nd Maccabees 2 and 5. I think it said through 8, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So this is 2nd Maccabees chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, and when Jeremiah came thither, hold on, sometimes you might prefer a KJV version. So going back, verse 5, it says, and when Jeremiah came thither, he found a hollow cave, wherein he laid the tabernacle and the ark and the altar of incense, and so stopped the door. And some of those that followed him came to mark the way, but they could not find it. And that's all through the Spirit. Which when Jeremiah perceived, he blamed them, saying, as for the place, it shall be unknown until the time that the Most High gather his people again together and receive them unto mercy. Then shall, and it's in lower, Yahweh Shah show them these things, and the glory of Yahweh Shah shall appear, and the cloud also, which is the chariot, as it was showed under Moses, and as when Solomon desired that the place might be honorably sanctified, right? Explanation: Jeremiah's prophecy, recorded in the Apocrypha, promises that the tent of meeting and the ark will accompany the faithful remnant until the Most High gathers Israel again. This underscores that Abraham's promise extends through David's line, ensuring national survival even in exile. So yeah, man, these Edomites, which we all know, are gonna kill two 2/3 of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous, and the majority of you that are going to be put to death are women. Keywords in etymology: Hebrew, David, beloved, Dawad. Greek, David, direct translation of the Hebrew. Latin, David, retained unchanged from Hebrew. It says, beyond these core precepts, you might explore how the new covenant, Jeremiah 31 through 34, internalizes Abraham's promise in every believer's heart. So let's go to Jeremiah 31, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith Yahawah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Yashar'Allah and with the house of Yahawah, which we're not in the new covenant yet. Will be when you're translated and receive those new bodies. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers, in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith Yahawah. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Yashar'Allah. After those days, saith Yahawah, I will put my law in their inward parts. Right? It's going to be in our DNA. It's going to be in our construction. And write in their hearts, their minds, and will be their power, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, because everybody's going to have spiritual powers, the Holy Spirit. They're going to know all things. And every man his brother, saying, Know Yahawah, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahawah. And that shows that there's going to be order in the kingdom. Not even every Israelite is going to be created equal. There's order. It says, For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. And this has yet to happen. So that shows you that Esau, he's going to fail. The typology of Abraham's seed in Pauline theology, Galatians 3, verses 16 through 29, and its implications of Jew-Gentile unity, which those Gentiles were Israelites. This is Galatians chapter 3, verse 15. Brethren, I speak after the manner of men. So I can small. You can see men, but my computer screen is kind of dirty. It says, Brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannulleth it or addeth thereto. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not into seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Hamashiach, which is Yahushua. And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of the Most High in Hamashiach, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul, that it should make the promise of none effect. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of promise, but Yahweh gave it to Abraham by promise. Wherefore then serveth the law? It was added because of transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made, and it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator, which that mediator was Yahawashi. Now, a mediator is not a mediator of one, but the Most High is one. Is the law then against the promise of the Most High? Yahweh forbid. For if there had been a law given which could have given life, verily righteousness should have been by the law. But the scripture have concluded all under sin, that the promise by faith of Yahweh Shah Mashiach might be given to them that believe. But before faith come, we were kept under the law, shut up unto the faith which should afterwards be revealed. Right? Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us on to Yahushua, that we might be justified by faith. But after that faith is come, so the laws to admit to increase your faith. We are no longer under a schoolmaster because you have faith in Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, right? But that doesn't mean you willfully break the law, right? It says, for ye are all the children of the Most High by faith in Hamashiach Yahushua. For as many of you as have been baptized into Hamashiach have put on Hamashiach, meaning you walk in his likeness, you're mimicking him, and not the point, not saying that you're parroting, mimicking, but like you're living just like I make the analogy with Dylan. If you watch college football and NFL football, you have a player named Dylan Raiola that plays for Nebraska, I want to say, that mimics from dress to talk to look to how he plays to how he practices to his pregame ritual, just as Patrick Mahomes, who plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's how we are supposed to be, like Yahweh Shah. We should, when people look at us, they should be thinking that we're almost carbon copies of Yahweh Shah. Mannerism, speech, conduct, belief, faith, glorifications, right? Love. 28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, which the Greek was speaking about the Hellenized Israelites. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female, but ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. And if ye be Hamashiachs, then are ye Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Right, but you have to be an Israelite, right? Because these words are only given to the elect of Israel, the Bible, right? The Bible was written for the elect of Israel, not the whole nation. That's why the whole nation is blocked. from it in its understandings. It says the typology of Abraham's seed and Pauline theology, Galatians 3:16-29, and its implications for Jew-Gentile unity, parallels in later prophetic visions like Ezekiel's dry bones, which I'm not going to get, Ezekiel 37, or Zechariah's 4 chariots, Zechariah 6, that hinge on Abrahamic faithfulness, you know? So despite them talking about going to Chicago and going to this city, or despite these, lesser Edomites talking about, our people in the manner that they do, and how they think that we're weak, and that us being delivered by so-called UFOs and them being wiped off the face of the earth by nuclear missiles is preposterous to them, man. But yet, to the believers, to comfort our hearts, our minds, we have a rich history of YAHAWAH Shem Shah destroying our enemies, man, and delivering his people. And this time is going to be no different, man. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified, and I'm going to say shalom.